In collaboration with the Cyprus Mail, this is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
Coming up this week, as lockdown restrictions are lifted, 300,000 trees in Nicosia is getting back to work.
So in all cases, we are planting indigenous trees, such as olive trees, carob trees, cypress, oak trees, pine trees.
You're invited to get out into nature to support Birdlife Cyprus.
So they have 8 weeks to complete 100K. And while they do that, they can share this journey, share their progress on social media.
And a new exhibition examines Cypriot identity.
I've always jokingly called myself the Cypriot that isn't. I had a lot of people not liking the fact that I was seeking contact with my Turkish Cypriot school friends. If I spoke in English, I was told to speak my own language.
We're going to find out about tree planting in Cyprus, because 300,000 Trees in Nicosia is an organisation that's been going for quite some time now, but they have just received support from the Australian High Commission to help set up their own plant nursery so that they can grow the saplings which can then be transplanted all over the Nicosia district. Joining us from the Australian High Commission is Kostas Konstanti, and from 300,000 Trees in Nicosia, Anna Prodromou. So let's start with you, Anna, first, about how you came about deciding that you really did need to start growing your own saplings. You were, I think, getting quite a few from the forestry department initially.
Yes, actually we cooperate with the Forest Department, and we have a very good collaboration, and they are granting us free seedlings and saplings, and that's how we managed to do all the tree plantings up to now, coming to approximately 1,000 trees. But we wanted to feel a bit more independent, especially I think that was a need that rose through COVID when plantings were not allowed, and we could not get saplings from the forest department for obvious reasons, of course. So that's when we started thinking that how it would be to create our own nursery so that we can source our plantings on our own. Also, by doing that, we will not only achieving our goal faster, but we want that our nursery to be a meeting point as well for volunteers and community members, and maybe in the future we'll be able to do seminars and workshops, invite the students from school, just, create it as a hub for the environment, for environmental action.
Well, and for teaching people, I guess, how to go about planting saplings and taking cuttings. But I think that you deal with specific trees for Cyprus. So tell us a little bit about that, because not all trees are suitable for planting out, particularly in mountainous areas. But I guess that as long as they're looked after, a wider variety can be planted in the towns.
Yeah, so let me say that our work is planned carefully every time so that issues like water availability and, of course, as you mentioned, the suitability of tree species to the local area are taken into account. So in all cases, we are planting indigenous trees such as olive trees, carob trees, cypress, oak trees, pine trees, and when it comes to bushes, we thyme and lavender and maybe a bit more. So actually, this is what we are planning to grow in our nursery as well. I mean, every time it's a collaboration between the local community or the municipality and of course the forest department and our team of experts to plant the right trees in the right area. And another very important thing for us is we always make sure that the trees that are planted in the height of the rainy season, if we can say that we have a rainy season in Cyprus, but also to give them, best chances of survival, and also that they are being maintained for the first 3 years of their lives, either by the community or the municipalities. That is always a must for us.
Yeah, because if they don't get looked after, then they'll just die, won't they? Let's bring Kostas in here. The Australian High Commission in Cyprus, Kostas, How have you got involved in this and why? I mean, back in Australia, thinking of the dreadful wildfires that they have, you must be pretty expert in Australia at replanting and so on. But how have you come to be supporting this initiative in Cyprus?
Look, with the experience Australia has with bushfires and replanting, as you mentioned, I mean, it goes back decades. But as you'll remember, just before the COVID pandemic, some massive bushfires across Australia, which were the biggest they've ever had, which were quite destructive. It brought to the forefront the need, both in Australia and globally, for not just about replanting as such, but like fire prevention and engineering. So what we're doing now is globally by different embassies, including here in Cyprus, we're engaging local NGOs, in this case 300,000 trees, to support efforts to plant the correct trees for the correct environment. You mentioned earlier the right trees in the mountains. We obviously encourage native trees, where possible fire retardant trees, but we also at the same time are working with the European University, Cypriot, which is the other Centre for Risk and Emergencies, on fire engineering. So basically one matches the other, if that makes sense.
So it's not just financial help then? You're actually getting bodies on the ground to give advice?
Absolutely correct, yes. So we're bringing in experts from Australia. At the moment, due to COVID, obviously it's electronic via Zoom calls and whatnot. Bringing in experts both in fire engineering from the University of Monash in Melbourne and other universities across the country. Also bringing in experts on propagation of trees and how to make trees last longer, and how in drought-afflicted areas, which Australia and Cyprus are both familiar with, how to work to make more sustainable growth and help green both islands.
And it's not just about Australia and Cyprus, of course. I mean, if you look at the whole problem globally, Anna, we need more trees everywhere, don't we?
Admittedly, Rosie, climate change is the defining crisis over time, and it's happening even more quickly than we feared. There is no corner of the globe that is immune from the devastating consequences, and we feel that replanting is one of the simplest and more effective ways of tackling climate change caused by greenhouse gas. Because as we know, as trees grow, they absorb carbon dioxide, a major greenhouse gas in the atmosphere. When we've seen it happening everywhere, when communities plant trees, they can help to reduce the impacts of climate change in their local area and, of course, around the world. And not to mention the emotional change that people feel by living in a space, in a greener spaces. So definitely, it is a big global threat, but I don't think that we are powerless to face it. We just have to, now is the time for bold collective action.
You must have been very frustrated when you were denied the permission to continue your work, but you must also, I suspect, be extremely frustrated by the number of trees that we see on a daily basis being cut down in Cyprus. Have you got any sort of lobbying arrangement, or even perhaps the fact that you have got contacts with the forestry department to try and make sure that mature trees are not sacrificed, because we see municipalities cutting them down and then saying it's all right, we're going to plant new ones. But that's not the same thing, is it?
You are absolutely right that we were upset, and not just upset, we were extremely frustrated when we couldn't do anything during the restricted COVID-19 restriction. And yes, we did voice our frustration to the department and to the forest department and to the minister. The reply we got is that there was no way to go ahead with it, because we couldn't control how many people would come to the plantings. And of course, we are constantly pushing for a lot of things that are happening, and they put us in an awkward position. We are in collaboration also with other organizations, environmental organizations in the island, but like pruning is one of the things that frustrate us a lot, and many times we ask answers from the governmental department or the municipalities. Usually, not usually, sometimes we do get responses like this was the right decision and we had to do it. Leaving the trees as they were would cause bigger problems than the ones that we're having now, or that they're going to plant again. And our role is just to push and try to get some answers and try to be a bit, for those authorities and departments, to be a bit more transparent on why we're doing. Yes, and this is, again, one of our goals as well, to lobby environmental issues, especially related with trees.
Well, it sounds like you get fobbed off, as it seems does everybody who questions what I've just been talking about and you've just been talking about. But let's wrap this up. You did say that you'd planted how many trees already?
We did 24 plantings, and we're approximately up to 8,000 trees.
So still a long, long way to go. What's the best way of expanding this?
I think the best way for people to help is to actually participate in our plantings. We do need volunteers. This was our first action for 2021, actually, the creation of our nursery. And I like to take this opportunity to really thank the Australian High Commission for helping us making this dream of ours, as we can say, bring it into reality. We appreciate it totally. And the fact that they are really hands-on to offer help either with volunteers or with experts from Australia. So at this moment, the next thing is to start the plantings as well. Last Sunday, we just did the first clearing the sign, covering the ground with soil cover. It was just the beginning. So, and in November, we're going to do our second phase, and hopefully beginning in of January, celebrating Australia Day as well, our nursery will be fully functioning.
So thank you, Anna. We're looking forward as the Australian High Commission to the next phases of the project. I mean, as Anna mentioned, we've just had the land clearing and the setup of the base for the nursery, which saw about 20 people with hose and diggers, clearing the land and setting it up. And in a month's time, we'll set up the greenhouse where the saplings will be grown. And we also look forward to January, where we'll be able to actually do the seed planting and the potting, which will we'll mark Australia Day with. So it'll be a nice symbolic event that we hope that we'll be able to open up to the wider population, COVID permitting.
Of course, it's always COVID permitting these days, isn't it? But if we point people in the direction of the Facebook group 300k Trees in Nicosia, the details and the contacts are there, and hopefully you can at least double the number in the coming year that you've already planted. Thank you very much indeed from the Australian High Commission, Kostas Konstanti, and from 300,000 Trees in Nicosia, Anna Prodromou.
This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
I think we all know that getting out in nature is good for you. It's good for your health. It gives you an insight into ecosystems. There are lots more positives, which is why Birdlife Cyprus is inviting you between the 23rd of October and the 18th of December to take up their new challenge, 100k for nature. Their communications officer is Elena Markidani. She joins us now. Elena, tell us where the idea for this came from, because it's a money raiser, I know, for Birdlife, but you're also trying, I think, to help people who perhaps don't usually go walking, running or cycling in nature to get out there and have a look around.
Yes, exactly. We see people from all over the world taking up such challenges and for a good cause. And actually, a colleague of ours has done something similar last year, where she pledged to run a half marathon and raise money for Birdlife Cyprus, and that was a huge success. And seeing that these sort of challenges are also endorsed by other conservation organizations throughout the world, we thought it would be a lovely idea to do something similar and raise awareness at the same time and give the opportunity to the people to go out in nature and also give back to nature in this way.
So explain how it's going to work.
So whoever is interested in participating can visit our website on birdlifecyprus.org to read more information about this challenge. If they're interested in taking part, they will need to sign up and create a fundraising page on giveandgain.com. It's a platform where individuals can raise money for specific charities or NGOs. So they would need to set up their fundraising page and basically just take on the challenge of completing 100 kilometers, of course not in one go because that's very tough. They will have 8 weeks to either run, walk or cycle or even do an alternative outdoors activity. We've had people interested in swimming, for example, and covering this distance through swimming. So they have 8 weeks to complete 100K. And while they do that, they can share this journey, share their progress on social media to their friends, their family, and ask them to sponsor them through their fundraising page. So any money raised, they will come to Birdlife Cyprus, and each participant can choose which area they would like to support with their participation.
What sort of areas are up for grabs, as it were?
So we identified 4 areas where we need the most help in. So it's actions to combat illegal bird killing, actions to monitor our bird populations, education and awareness-raising actions, or actions to safeguard important habitats for birds.
And when you say actions, I mean, for example, the last one, saving important habitats, that's very much a lobbying thing, isn't it, with government encroachment onto areas like the Agamas?
It can be a lot of things. It can also be about raising awareness for communities within a specific habitat or site. It could also mean putting up an information board for people to get to know more about the area, its needs, and any sensitivities, as well, of course, any lobbying actions for areas that need urgent protection, such as Agamas, like you mentioned.
100 kilometres in 8 weeks. That's quite a lot, actually, for people who perhaps are not athletes.
Well, it's not just, covering a large distance over the weekend. Some people may be commuting to work with their bicycles. They may be doing a short walk in the park on a weekday. All these activities count towards completing the goal of 100K. But even still, if someone, whatever reason, cannot finish 100K, that's no problem at all. The most important thing is taking part in this challenge and helping raise awareness and fundraising for nature. That being said, some people may even do more than 100K. That's absolutely fine. The most important thing is being involved in this and doing this for a good cause. And getting out into nature. But how do you measure, for example, a walk in the park and how many K that is? Well, there's many mobile applications, free mobile applications you can download, and so you can record your activity through your mobile phone. Some people also have smartwatches, so they can record their activity through their smartwatch. So there are many applications, and we are suggesting some through the website for people who don't own a smartwatch to download this application to their mobile app, their mobile phone. So it's fairly easy to record the distance. And people can get all these details, I guess, on your Facebook page, Birdlife Cyprus, but also on the website. Give us the URL. So it's birdlifecyprus.org/100K. That's the campaign website, and everything people need to know is on that website. And people have still got a little while to sign up because it doesn't officially start until the 23rd of October. It runs through to just before Christmas on the 18th of December. Have you any indication how many people you hope will take part? How many kilometres will get covered? Well, so far, 20 people have already signed up, so we're really excited to see the interest and people eager challenge? Well, our aim is to have at least 100 participants. So we hope to get that number. As for the money raised, anything that will be raised, we will be happy with, and we will make sure they will be used for targeted conservation actions. And at the start of 2022, we will be announcing how much money were exactly raised by this campaign and how exactly they're going to be used, while taking into account the areas that people choose to support through their fundraising campaign.
Well, I hope it goes well for you all. That's the 100K for Nature Challenge being issued by Birdlife Cyprus. Look for them on Facebook or go to their website. Our thanks to their communications officer, Elena Markidani, for joining us and telling us all about it.
Keep up to date with events in Cyprus and around the world with the Cyprus News Digest.
The CVAR in Old Nicosia will tomorrow be hosting an exhibition called Unearthing My Past. It runs through until the end of October, and the person behind the exhibition joins us now. She is Athina Yerodiakonou van Dongen. And Athina, first of all, your past. You're not very old. You haven't got much of a past, have you?
No, that's true. I'm not that old. But when I talk about my past, looking back at my genetic journey as well, I'm doing this, or I've done this, because we like to label ourselves here in Cyprus. I'm Greek, I'm Turkish, I'm Armenian, I'm this, I'm that. And I strongly believe in the Cypriot identity, and so I wanted to know a little bit more about my ancestry and where the family way back originally, hundreds of years ago, originated from. So when I talk about unearthing my past, I'm actually looking back at the genetic journey that some members of my family have taken to bring me to where I am today.
That's fascinating. So you had to go back into your distant past, your relatives from all over. Where do you come from?
I think it's interesting to Cypriots, really, to see where the family has wandered to and settled and eventually come back down and found the island of Cyprus. We all come from one African mother, and from there the family moved up into Persia. It went up towards Eastern Europe and out towards Asia. It then moved up to Northern Europe and back down through Sardinia and eventually into Cyprus. And I find that fascinating.
You yourself, of course, have moved around a bit as well, but you're back in Cyprus for this. Are you coming back for good, or will you be back up to Northern Europe yourself soon?
We've decided to settle, more or less settle back in Cyprus and spend a very large part of the year here. My husband, as you know, is Dutch. We met in Cyprus many years ago, so he's lived here before and absolutely loves the island. And he's the one really behind always wanting to move back. And I think in the end, the landscape, I love the island of Cyprus. I love the landscape. I get very upset that it's being destroyed by large buildings and unnecessary development. But I love the light, I love the sun, the sea, I love the whole combination. And the people, my friends, and that eventually that is also looking at my past and at my identity, who I am, and bringing me back here. So I think we'll definitely be spending a very large part of the year in Cyprus from now on.
It's funny, isn't it? So many Cypriots do spend time abroad, but eventually they do all seem to come back. There's something very special, I think, about the island. But let's talk about what's on show at the exhibition, because it's a lot of different things, isn't it? Ceramics, sketches, words, workshops. Tell us about the workshops.
Well, the workshops are linked to the exhibition. 10 years ago, I started working a lot more intensively with clay. And I particularly like alternative firing techniques, which means that I don't use glazes on these ceramics. Any lusted effects are created by spraying oxides and chlorides when the pieces are just brought out of the kiln. So there's no actual glazes on these ceramics. And I started creating some objects just purely as a relaxation from other work which I was doing. And as I created more and more pieces, I looked at them and I felt that they were all connected and they were trying to say something to me. They looked like that I had maybe found on an archaeological dig. I've been brought up being taken to Salamis, being taken to Curium, looking at tombs. I've always loved that ever since I was a child, and I love that part of Cyprus. And I looked at these pieces and I thought, they're connected and there's something there. So I started then looking back at all my portfolios. And again, there was a link there. And very gradually, I saw that my work from the past and my work from what I was doing at the time obviously was linked, but there was a progression, a very visible progression of what I was looking for, experiences that I'd had and how I had dealt with them or not dealt with them, choices I had made or not made, things that had happened to me sometimes not by choice, and how I had dealt with these. And it was coming out in my work. And it also had a lot to do with my identity. I've always jokingly called myself the Cypriot that isn't. I was brought up bilingual, but my strongest language is English. I've added a number of languages along the way. And there's a lot of people like me. I came back for a period of time in the late 80s, and I found the nationalism that was growing up here at the time was very upsetting, and it affected me negatively. I had a lot of people not liking the fact that I was seeking contact with my Turkish Cypriot school friends. If I spoke in English, I was told to speak my own language. All these things affected me, and they started coming out in my work. And I felt that, and I still feel, that there's a lot of younger children and people like me, and everybody is a Cypriot, and everybody has a right to be here and accepted and respected. And my work is something that I always like to turn into workshops or an art project for school children. That's the teacher side in me. I'm also a trained art teacher. And so the idea came to maybe create some workshops which are linked to the work.
So those will be open to school children, will they?
Will primarily be open to secondary school children. We decided, because we're very limited in the numbers that we're allowed to have and the time, that that was a good age group to start with. And we have secondary school children from both sides of the divide who are interested in coming along and taking part.
If somebody listening to this thinks, I'd like my kids to go and do that, how do they go about signing up?
They should get in touch with the workshop coordinator and facilitator, who is Jenny Brown. She is responsible for the workshop part of the project. She's organising, she's giving some of the workshops, and they can get more information and details from her. We've created a Facebook event, and there's numbers to call and information to give there that they can access there. So that's the best way to go about enrolling. I think there might be a few spaces, or one or two of the workshops. She knows which ones
and when.
Yeah.
Well, that's unearthing my past. So I presume that's what people should look for on Facebook as this event. Or go to the CVAR page on Facebook. That's the Severus Foundation. And you can see the exhibition. It's a whole conglomeration, I think we could say, of so many different genres, and it's the work of Athina Yerodekonu van Dongen. It's open from Saturday the 16th to Friday the 29th of October at the CVAR from 10 in the morning until 5 p.m. I can't leave you this week without mentioning the story making the rounds on social media here in Cyprus. The village of Xylofagou in the Larnaca district is well known for growing potatoes, and for reasons best known to themselves, the municipal council has decided that they need a statue. They've erected a giant potato in the village, but everyone seems to think that it rather resembles a phallus, and we're now calling ourselves not the Banana Republic or the Golden Passports Republic, but the Potato Country. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.